Your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more. You are a leader. Good evening, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Avenir 2021, a global virtual career guidance program organized by Indian School Al-Wadi Al-Kabir under the aegis of the Board of Directors of Indian Schools in Oman. On behalf of Indian School Al-Wadi Al-Kabir, we, Leah and Disha, the hosts for this evening from ISWK, take the proud privilege of expressing our profound gratitude to His Majesty Haitham bin Tariq Al Said for the unstinting and noble benevolence showered on the Indian community in the Sultanate of Oman. May the Almighty shower His choicest blessings on His Majesty, and may this nation experience peace and everlasting prosperity. At the outset, let me take this opportunity to welcome dignitaries from the Ministry of Education, Dr. Shivakumar Manikam, Honorable Chairman, Board of Directors, Indian Schools in the Sultanate of Oman, members of the various Board of Directors, CBSE officials, distinguished members of the Ministry of Education, Oman, officials of the Indian Embassy of India, Sultanate of Oman, Mr. Alkesh Joshi, Honorary President of the School Management Committee, Indian School Al-Wadi Al-Kabir, presidents and members of the school management committees of all Indian schools in Oman and from other schools and boards across the globe, principals, vice principals, heads of various departments, coordinators, teachers, parents, staff, and students of all participating schools. Welcome all.
Dear audience, you are requested to fill in the feedback form posted in the chat box. And to our attendees who are viewing the session on YouTube Live, kindly use the link posted in the description towards the end of the session. Filling this form is necessary as it would fetch you a participation certificate.
It is with sheer joy and great pride that I take the task of introducing our guest speaker today. He is a man of virtue and simplicity, a living inspiration to the youth. With honor and pride, I now introduce you to the man of stature, a man of dedicated actions whose services and contributions have changed the mindsets of people. He is none other than Mr. Sriniketh Kantadai. Mr. Sriniketh Kantadai, popularly known as Nick Kantadai, is currently an engagement delivery manager at Salesforce Incorporated. He is located in the Washington, D.C. metro area and works with clients on cross-functional technology projects using Salesforce Marketing Cloud. He has over 9 years of experience in leading and managing technical product implementations. Dear audience, let's welcome Mr. Sriniketh Kantadai.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. Good morning if you're in the Washington, D.C. area. And thank you for that really good introduction. I do want to start out by expressing my, I'm really happy to be here, especially to the Board of Directors of Indian School, the Avenir group, and everyone working here, the students, the teachers, for having me here today to talk about, my journey and the lessons that I've learned along the way. As a lot of you might know, I was a student at ISWK. I started at ISWK when I was in 6th standard, and I was a student all the way into when I graduated. Fun fact, actually, I was a student at all 3 major schools in Muscat. So I was a student at Indian School Al Gobra for a couple of years. I was a student at Indian School Muscat, and I was also a student at ISWK. I lived, I think, 17 years of my life in Oman, 1991 to 2008. I've seen Oman grow, I've seen the schools grow, and Muscat and Oman, still holds a very dear place in my heart, even 12, 13 years from when I left the country. Who am I? Why am I here today? Clearly, you have prestigious universities, you have people from India and across the globe talk to you about various different topics. But what I wanted to do today was kind of take a step back and just kind of put myself in your shoes. I've literally been a student at ISWK. I've walked the same halls. I've gone to the same classes. A lot of the same teachers were there when they were there back in 2008. JP sir, Jennifer ma'am, Jagdish Patil sir. I can go on. There's so many teachers who are still there in 2008 who were my teachers for math and chemistry and computer science that are still there today, and it's really nice to see them still at that school today. And yeah, so who am I today? I just want to give you a quick background. I think Disha did a great introduction there. I don't think I can compare to what she did there, but a little bit about myself. Like I said, I graduated ISWK in 2008. From there, I moved back to Chennai in India and did my undergrad in mechanical engineering. I graduated from Rajalakshmi Engineering College, which is affiliated to Anna University, in 2012. And then I moved to Washington, D.C. for my master's in engineering management and graduated there 2014. I think for people who don't know, an engineering management degree, if I have to really boil it down, is pretty much a degree for engineers, but focused on business management and management skills. So think of it as an MBA for engineers. That's kind of how I would like to explain what that degree is. Now, when I graduated from there, I held a lot of different jobs, a lot of different internships. But today, as of today, I work at Salesforce as an engagement delivery manager. I've been at Salesforce for close to 2 years now. I think it'll be 2 years in January, in December, actually. And, what is an engagement delivery manager? At the outset, an engagement delivery manager is a technical project manager. So, think of if you're a client and you say, I want to implement this software, I need this software to work to help my customer service agents so they can pick up calls, they can track people who are calling me if something is wrong with my machine, or, think of Amazon customer service, and you call customer service, they typically ask you questions and, what the issue is, and they try to track everything. Salesforce is pretty much that. Salesforce is a customer relationship management software service company, and they provide enterprise applications for customer service, marketing technology, analytics, and building apps. So my role as an engagement delivery manager is pretty much a project manager. I'm that in-between person who works with the client and then works with my team of developers. So the client gives me requirements, I'm a project manager, and I sit down with them and say, okay, it's going to take this long, it's going to cost you this much, and we are going to work towards achieving your end goal of a completed, implemented software. So that is what my role is today. I focus on the Salesforce Marketing Cloud side. So that Marketing Cloud is pretty much emails. So if a large company wants to send emails to their customers, whether it's marketing emails, whether it's emails that your order shipped, for example. So I work with my client in making sure that the system works and all the different projects that we're doing work smoothly within the system itself. So, and I hope, I want this whole session to be very interactive. So I'm looking for a lot of questions at the end of the day. Like I said, I was you guys 12, 13, 14 years ago. I was a student at ISWK, thinking about what I wanted to do in life when I graduated high school. Am I going to go to India? Am I going to go abroad? Am I going to study engineering? Am I going to study finance? Like, what do I want to do in life? So I'm looking forward to a lot of questions there, so I can try and understand where you guys are, but also help you with some tips and tricks that I learned growing up and even today in life. So with that, the next slide, I wanted to take this pause here to say we are all in a work in progress. So, I'm a work in progress. I'm learning new things every day. I think the goal of this presentation is not to tell you how to do things, what to do. It's more about things to keep in mind, like the lessons that you learn in school or in college or after college is going to be probably different from what I learned. Maybe some of it is similar, but a lot of things that I want to point out today is just things to keep in mind, things that maybe I didn't identify right then and there, maybe when I was in school. But after I finished school, when I was in college, I used to always think, maybe if I did that thing a little differently, it would help me today, or I should have done things a little differently. So these are the kind of things I want to talk about, just give you some ideas and tips and tricks that I learned, and it'll probably be helpful for you guys as well. So the first thing, I'm going to break down my presentation into three different areas. Things that I learned while I was at ISW at Indian School of Wadi Kabir that I think you guys would find useful. Lessons that I learned when I was in college. And then finally, lessons that I learned after I left college, when I was in the workforce, when I started my jobs, my internships, and just in life, like what have I learned that I think will be really helpful for you guys. So the first thing I want to talk about when you're in ISWK, I think it's very important as students, as young students in 9th standard, 10th, 11th, and 12th, is I want you guys to explore and research the different areas you're interested in. There's so much information in the world. Like, I'm not just talking Wikipedia. You go on Google and you type in one Google search result, and you can go down this rabbit hole of researching something for ages. It's never ending. You can go from one article to another article to a paper written by someone, a news article somewhere, a company that does something you're interested in. There's so many different ways to do your research, but that's something very important is when you're young, when you're 15 or 16 years old, you might be interested in so many different things. Your interests change on a month-to-month basis. For example, when I was in school, at one given point, one summer, I was really interested in hotel management. I kept telling myself, when I graduated college, I want to go into hotel management. I love hotels. I love traveling the world. I want to go and work at a fancy hotel somewhere in like a really cool location. The next summer, I remember watching, I think on Discovery Channel, I watched this show about heavy drilling, and I was like, oh, you know what? I'm really interested in machines. Maybe I need to look at something like mechanical engineering. I want to work on big machines in these really interesting projects. I remember one year I was like, you know what? I'm really interested in chemistry. Maybe I want to go into the chemical industry someday. So my research changed every day, every month. And I think that's the same thing I want to tell you guys is it's okay. It's expected. And I want you guys to kind of, research and just try to identify, try and write down and say, is this what I'm interested in? What can I do? Look, once you know what your interests are, you can narrow your searches based on that. Next is engage in extracurricular activities. I did that a lot in school. I played in the cricket team. I did a lot of, I was, the background speaker in a lot of these events that we had in school. I try to play in intramural stuff with inter-school activities. But I think this not just helps you, build things like teamwork and leadership and, just being, improving your communication skills. In general, I think this also helps you when you go into college, when you go into real life, into the workforce, that some of these skills that you learn in school will help you when you go there. And at the end of the day, it helps you build your resume and just helps you build extra skills outside of just books, going home, books, in school work. It's always good to have these extra skills in your bag as well. The next thing is, I know this wasn't there when I was in school. I think Facebook just started. I don't think LinkedIn was there. If it was there, it was probably just beginning. But, use LinkedIn, use social media, the right way. I think LinkedIn has been great for me ever since I was in college. All my internships, all my jobs were through LinkedIn. I made connections with people who were either connected to my university, people who were connected in my larger circle, and that's how I got my jobs. That's how I kept in touch with people. That's how I, if I had a question with someone, I used to always reach out on LinkedIn. But for you guys, I think what I think is useful too is Facebook, right? I'm still in touch with a lot of my friends from school. They might be in Australia. If you were today listening to Abhishek Roy, who was, I think, a senior by 1 year with me in school, he's in Singapore. I still keep in touch with people like them on Facebook, right? Facebook and LinkedIn. I try to learn, okay, what are they doing in their lives? If I have a question about something, they're all available in the social media network. And I think that's something you want to keep in mind is look to LinkedIn, look to Facebook to try and connect with your seniors, because I don't think one senior person from our ISWK alumni team won't say, I won't help you. If someone reached out to me on Facebook and LinkedIn and said, hey, Nick, I'm looking at this area, I'm interested in XYZ, what do you think? Or I'm looking at this university, it looks to be, in the area where you live, what do you think? I'm always going to be open to answering questions to help you guys. So that's something to keep in mind is, try to make the most of the use of social media that you have today. Oh, next is, I know this is controversial, a little topic, but something, I think the parents seeing this might be like, whoa, what is he trying to say? But what I wanted to say is there's more to life than a career just, mainstream engineering or mainstream commerce. I want you guys to think about widening your horizons. If I was, today I'm working in a field that has nothing to do with what I studied in college. So a lot of people will say, what you study today or what you focus on might not be what your career is. I'm a technical project manager, but that has nothing to do with mechanical engineering. Yes, I learned a lot in mechanical engineering that it just makes me think more analytically, think more, from a tech savvy way, but it's not really mechanical engineering. So what I want to try and say is widen your horizons, look at different areas that you can focus your energy on. There's so many different degrees, so many different niche categories that it might sound niche today, but 20 years from now, that might be what everyone's doing. So, try to get ahead of it. I think a good example is Bitcoin, right? Fintech, they call it financial technology, was just starting up in 2007, 2008. But now that's the rage, right? Everyone's talking about Bitcoin. Everyone's talking about electric cars. So, that is something where start looking at what's at the bleeding edge. What technology, what industry is pioneering at something today. Try to study and try to look into those research areas to see, what kind of degrees are people looking for in those areas. And by the time you graduate and by the time you finish your school and college, there might be a lot of job opportunities in that area. There might be a lot of interest areas where you can go into from there. Now, the next piece is, what did I learn in college? So, now I'm trying to, again, say this is 2008 to 2012. I graduated from my ISWK. I got into mechanical engineering in my university in Chennai. And now I moved to Chennai and I'm like by myself for the first time. So a lot of you will start seeing this when you graduate, when you're 17, 18. I've lived with my parents my whole life and I moved to India. And now you have this shock where, in a way, Muscat in Oman is in its own cocoon. It's in its own bubble where you have your set group of friends, you have your house, you have your parents who take care of you, you have this whole safety blanket, so to say. But once you move to college, that's going to change. You're going to be more independent. You're going to get your license. You're probably going to get a bank account. You're going to start getting all these independence, areas of independence where you need to be ready for that. So, having those soft skills that I talked about, through extracurricular activities, just being ready, kind of mentally telling yourself to be ready and to be more independent. It is hard. I went through a lot of challenges. I remember calling my parents when I started college, crying some days, being like, you know what, it's too hard. I don't like where I am. I don't like what I'm doing. And it's totally normal, but I do want you guys to know that you got to be ready to be more independent. Another thing is internships are very valuable, regardless of whether you're in college or when you just finished college, but especially when you're in college. Having those internships during your summer break is going to help you a lot when you graduate college. For example, if there are 100 people who are going to apply for the same job that you're looking for, if you had 2 internships and the other person had 0, that sets you apart from the other person. So things like internships, and I have another point here about about certificates, is the goal is you're trying to keep yourself and show you how different you are from the others, trying to stand apart from the other 100 applicants for a job 2 years from now, or just trying to learn, right? When you're in school, internships gives you the ability to try different companies, try different areas of interest, being like, for example, if you're into finance, maybe you will try and work be an intern at a bank once. Maybe you'll be an intern at an auditing company. Those are two completely different areas, right? A banking and auditing, for example, can be two different groups. So you can be like, what's more interesting for me? But at the end of the day, you still are getting experience that you can put on your resume, and you're learning something new during your summer break when you're not in school. I know it's always nice to take 2 months off from college and just enjoy with your friends, but think of it this way: internships, a part-time internship or a full-time internship will really help you get that leg up against competition when you do graduate from college. The next thing, and this is, because I did this, if you're interested in the postgraduate degree, start working well in advance. So I knew well into my college that I'm not really interested in mechanical engineering. I want to pivot and I want to go into something I'm more interested in. And I'll talk to you a little bit about how I chose George Washington University and the degree. But if you know you want to go abroad, or you want to go somewhere for a postgraduate degree, start working well in advance. A lot of these places, I'm sure when you listen to these universities, they talk about if you want to start school next year, you have all these entrance exams, you have a test that you need to take, that you need to submit well in advance. So if you start thinking at the end of your 4-year degree for engineering, for example, if you know you want to do something right after that in postgraduate, you need to start working on that in year 2. You want to be you want to have that all ready to go. So by the time you're in your final year of college, all you got to do is finish college, and you'll have a university kind of already ready to go at that point. And the next part is, very it's related to the second point there about internships, is research the job market. So if you know you're going to graduate in a certain degree, research the job market. Take examples of top 50, 100 companies, look at their job, look at their careers page, and look for a job that interests you there, and see what are the different certifications that they're trying to add there to say it. They'll say, if you're into project management, they'll say a PMP degree is highly preferred. For example, it's a project management degree. Now, if you're going to be applying for that job, not everyone applying for that job might have a PMP degree. So maybe you want to start telling yourself, maybe I can work on this on the side while I'm still in college. So when I do apply for this position, it'll help me, it'll make me stand out from the other people applying for that same position. So there are a lot of, I think, certifications. There are plenty. There are probably a million certifications out there, but focus on the ones that are very specific to the role that you want to do, and kind of try and get those while in college or right after college, so you can stand out from your competition. All right. So now finally, we're coming to the end, about college, right? Just after college. Now imagine you're 21 and, you've graduated, and now you're like, okay, what do I do? The first thing is an effective, really well written out resume makes a difference. So I can't tell you enough, when I help my team hire people for junior roles on my team, a well written out resume makes a huge difference. So, and I think in school you guys learn how to write resumes. I'm sure you'll learn about that in college as well. Is, again, just how you stand out with your certifications. A resume is also very important. I remember reading a stat somewhere, but don't quote me on this, but a recruiter, I think, has less than maybe like about 20 seconds, something ridiculous number of seconds, where it's like less than a minute that it takes them to scan a resume. They don't have more than a minute, I think, to even effectively scan a resume. So for you need to be able to catch that person's attention when you write their resume, whether it's throwing out facts and numbers of what you've done that has improved something, your skills right up top. Try to get their attention, and this will really help you in life as well. I think an example, I remember, I think I applied to about 75 jobs when I graduated grad school in Washington, D.C. before I got my first job. 75. And I think around that time, I learned so many different ways I can change my resume until something worked where I started getting responses from people. Now, it could be other reasons too. Maybe there were other people who were more qualified than you, but I really noticed that after 50, 60 times that I was getting rejected, when I started really working on my resume, that really helped make that difference when it came to me landing my first job. Now, this is more something for you to keep in mind. I know a lot of you are still young, but something for you to keep in mind where research, right? I think whether you're in school or after school or in college, if you're interviewing for a job, research that company and find pertinent information about that company or the role so you can talk about that during the interview. There's nothing more, there's nothing more annoying, I would say, when if you're trying to interview someone and all that they're doing is giving you canned answers to everything that you ask them. What's your tell us a time where you failed at something. Like that's very a question you'll get a lot when you're interviewing. But if you interview for a job, you go online, research that company. If it's a public company, research their stock market and try to understand how do they do the last quarter, or research their news articles to see what did they really, what if it's a software company, what did they release recently. Try to find those pertinent information, interesting points, so you can try and weave that into your interview when you do talk to that company, so they know that you're really interested and you've taken the time to research that company when you do come and talk to them as well. Now, the next thing is something when if you're starting an internship or starting a job, be a sponge. And I like using this a lot when I'm interviewing or I'm interviewing someone else, is I try to understand, are they trying to be a sponge? Listen and learn. Don't be afraid to ask questions. So when you're starting a new job or a new internship, it's scary, right? You're going into this new space. You don't know anyone around you. You're trying to impress. But I think the best way to impress is just be a sponge, sit down, listen, learn. Every day you're going to hear something new, you're going to learn something new, but don't be afraid to ask questions. I know sometimes if you're, I'm an extrovert, but if you're an introvert, you're going to be like, I'm too scared to ask questions. If I ask questions, they'll think that I'm being annoying. No, I don't. Anytime you're new to a job or new to a situation, listen, try to learn as much as you can, and then when the time's right, ask your questions, but don't be afraid. And there's no stupid questions. You probably heard this a million times, where if you try to ask a question, you might think in your head that it sounds ridiculous, but don't be afraid to ask it, right? Always be sure to ask a question, because you're going to learn with the answer that you get from it. And then finally, I think another thing which again goes back to my last slide is continuous learning. Now, say you started a job, and how do you grow in your career? The only way you can grow in your career is doing well in your job. Obviously, you get promoted, you do well, you go up the ladder, you become a junior, associate, senior, and you become a director, you become a VP, whatever it might be. But these days, everyone's trying to do the same thing. So again, how do you stand out from the competition? You try to do it with certificates. You try to do it with industry-related certificates and programs. If you work for a software company that uses Salesforce, for example, Salesforce has a bunch of certifications that you can again use to learn about the software, but also stand out with the competition. I think me personally, I have a goal that every year I need to get at least one certification, whether it's job related, whether it's software related, whether it's project management related. It could be anything, but it's always good to have that. I think the word is upskilling. So you always want to try and upskill yourself every year. So you're not just the same person. Yes, you learn a lot on the job, but it's also good to kind of keep yourself updated on what's happening in real life. Because once you're working on the job, sometimes you get siloed into just doing what you're doing for like 2 years. And then when you're like, you know what, I'm ready to try a different job, you're like, wait, there's all these certifications. People are looking for the specific skill, but I didn't try and improve my skills in that 2 years when I was at the job. I was so focused at my job that I forgot about all these other things that will help me as well. I'm going to just take a break for water real quick. Now, the final item that I want to talk about is focus on your mental health. Now, this is a very important topic that I want to look directly in the camera when I'm talking about this to students and parents. I think this is something I've learned a lot recently about is focusing on your mental health, focusing on how important your mental health is just to your living, just your day-to-day life, right? When I was a student in ISWK, I had, I was anxious, I was stressed, my board exams are coming, oh, I got to finish my homework. What, am I going to do well in my board exams? Will I get the college I want? That is all it's very normal to have those feelings. It's very normal to be stressed out. It's very normal to have anxiety. I think what is very important is we need to talk about it. You need to be open about it. You want to go talk to your parents. You want to ask for help. That is one thing I do want to, if there's one thing you can remember from this whole conversation is ask for help if you need it. Do not internalize it. Don't just put it on yourself. At the end of the day, it's only school, it's only college, or it's only a job. Your life is bigger than just that one piece of your life. So ask for help. Mental health is very important. There's lots of different ways. There are a lot of different apps. There's different books. You can go to a doctor if you have serious issues. But I think at the end of the day, mental health is what will help you just live a good life, right? If you're anxious, at the end of the day, it's only an exam, right? Whether you get 85%, if you get 55%. I wasn't a great student. I think the teachers at ISWK would agree. I think I was just about average. I think I got 77%, 78% in 12th standard. And look where I am today. Right, I have a great job. I have a great life, and yeah, I'm not a doctorate student. I'm not a PhD, doctor, but I think I have a good life, right? It's just that I was very anxious in school when it came to 12th standard board exams. I was scared. When I was in college, I knew within 2 years of mechanical engineering that this is not what I wanted. So I was depressed. I was angry. I was like, I chose something that I didn't like. What am I going to do with my life? Because when I graduate from mechanical engineering, I didn't want to go work in that field. So I was able to pivot and say, what am I good at? I'm good at communication. I'm good at technology. I'm good at being that in-between person to talk to clients and talk to developers to try and get everything that needs to be got from a requirements perspective. And that's how I kind of channel my energy and said, okay, I'm going to try and go into this lane of being a technical project manager because I can use all those skills that I have and do well in my job. And at the same time, be happy doing. At the end of the day, I'm very happy at what I do. I'm happy with my company. I'm happy in life. So I think that's the same thing that I do want to point out to you guys is you got to be happy at what you do. Just don't do it for the sake of doing it. Don't do it just because someone told you or someone in your family is doing engineering and they're doing really well in their life, so I have to do the same thing. No, chart your own path, and I'm sure you guys will do great. So with that, I just want to say thank you again. Again, thank you to the team at Avenir and the Indian School Board in Oman. And that's my LinkedIn right there at the bottom. Feel free to find me on LinkedIn and connect with me if you have any questions. I think it goes for the parents and the students as well. And it's always great to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, sir. It was truly an extraordinary, inspiring session. Sir, may I request you to answer a few queries which have been raised by our valued audience. I would like to invite the moderator to proceed with the Q&A session.
Thank you, Leah. Good evening, Mr. Sriniketh. With your permission, may I go ahead with the QA section?
Yes, please, let's do it.
Our attendees have raised some questions. The first question, as an alumnus of ISWK, we are sure that you would be glad to guide our young aspirants to a successful career. So what are your suggestions about the new opportunities in the tech world?
In the tech world, that's a great that's a great question. So, I think today you'll start noticing a lot of things. You're trying to automate a lot of jobs that 12 years ago, 15 years ago was still done by humans. So I think machine learning is a good example, right? I think machine learning and AI, artificial intelligence, that's an area where you'll see a lot of things where in the past, I think a good example is 15 years ago, Amazon, if you ordered something, you had a human being go to a warehouse and pick your items and ship it for you. These days, Amazon, you'll notice, is using machines and bots to kind of go and pick up your different items within a warehouse, right? That is a way where a machine could do the job of maybe 5 or 6 humans in that same sphere. So that's another example. Anything that is technology related, like finance, like you see a lot of companies that are going completely remote. For example, Zoom, right? We're on Zoom today. Where was Zoom 15 years ago? Zoom wasn't even a company, right? So you can notice in saying audio visual technology that is going global. Another example, it can be financial technology, like Bitcoin, or ways to improve credit card processing, online accounts, where these days you have apps to pay people, right? 10 years ago, you didn't have that. So those are the kind of areas that if you watch the news, or if you just read the news about where companies are going and what those different technologies are, I think that's kind of where you want to focus it. I mean, yes, if you're interested in app development, a computer science degree, a software degree is very useful. But it's after that where how do you channel, which industry do you want to go into? It's just based on your interest.
Thank you. Another question. What are the opportunities awaiting in the Salesforce job market?
Okay, yeah. So Salesforce, Salesforce is a company that, if a lot of people, probably your parents probably use Salesforce at their job right now. If you call Dell, for example, and you're like, hey, something's wrong with my computer, the customer service agent who calls you is most likely, it's not most likely, they are using Salesforce on their side to get your information. Try to look up your information to see, okay, did Nina buy, which laptop did she buy, right? They'll ask you questions like, what's your ID number on your laptop? Or what's your email address that was associated to your account? That Salesforce software helps collect all that information. So whether you want to return your laptop, whether you have to send it in for servicing, there are workflows, and that software takes care of all of that. So Salesforce has different areas, and I won't go into super detail, but you can go and look at their website or read on Wikipedia. Salesforce has different areas that they look at. They have customer service software, so they call it CRM, customer relationship management software. They have marketing software, like I said. They have Tableau. If you've heard of Tableau, it is a data visualization tool. So think of building large dashboards with reporting and things like that. So there are a lot of different ways. Salesforce is a company that's been there for over 20 years now, I think close to 20 years. And they have like over 10 different products. So there's a lot of different areas within Salesforce that you can look into if you're interested.
Okay, thank you. Another one. So which Salesforce certifications are best suited for beginners?
For beginners, I would say the first one that you'll want to get is it's called the Salesforce Certified Administrator. So the Salesforce Certified Administrator is that base certification that people get when they start out at Salesforce. And I think you can get that when you're in college. For example, if you're in college, that degree, that certification is something that is overarching. It's a degree that looks at the different areas in the core Salesforce system. And if you have that in itself is a very good degree to have, a certification to have. So yeah, Salesforce Certified Administrator.
Okay, thank you. And here is the last question. We have got a great advice, track your own path. So do role models play a great role in our life?
Role models play, yes. I think having role models is very important. I mean, I'll be honest, I don't have one. I mean, again, whether it's, personally, I don't have one person who I've gone to get advice on. I have different people that I talk to. But yes, role models, if you find the right person, that I feel sometimes maybe parents and family are biased when they give you advice. So it's always good to have that person, maybe outside, maybe it's a senior from school, whether it's a colleague at work, maybe it's your manager at work, maybe it's an ex-manager. It's always nice to, have that one person where you can just go to them and be like, hey, Nick, I'm trying to do XYZ. What do you think I should do? Having that sounding board, being able to talk to them and try to understand, what's the right path. Again, they can't make the decision for you. Keep in mind, at the end of the day, it's your decision. But yeah, no, I think it can go both ways. It can go both ways.
Okay, we have got one more question. How do
Yes.
you be technically updated, and what's your advice on it?
That's a good question. So, so for me, I think one thing I look at is, even though I'm not looking for a new job, right? Sometimes I go on these really companies that I admire, and I open up their careers page and I look at a role that I think I can do. If I'm like a senior manager today and I want to become a director, I go to a director's page in the career page, and I scroll down to see what requirements they're asking for that job. And if I notice that I don't have something there, then I look at myself and like, what can I do to get that? Whether it's a certification, whether it's just experience, right? Maybe I'll say, okay, it says I need 10 years of experience. I have 8. So I need to work towards 2 more years of experience before I can even apply for that job. Or it's going to say, we require these 2 certifications or areas of expertise. They need to know X, Y, and Z. Then I go to myself and I Google, and I'm like, okay, if they say I need to have Salesforce experience in this certain area, how can I get it? Whether it's certification, whether it's finding a job that will give me that experience. So it's all about looking at one step ahead. What do you want to do next? And then you notice what you're missing, and then work towards what you're missing.
Thank you, Mr. Sriniketh. Thank you very much for an inspiring and informative section. Over to the conveyor.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for all your support and guidance given to the large audience by attending to their concerns so patiently during the course of discussion. Audience, kindly remember to fill in the feedback form, which is available on www.avenueroman.com.
End of this enriching session, it is my great privilege to propose the vote of thanks. On behalf of Indian School Al-Wadi Al-Kabir, the organizing team, and the entire audience, let me first express an earnest gratitude to His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq Al Said for the magnanimous benevolence showered on the Indian diaspora in the Sultanate of Oman. May the Almighty shower abundant blessings on His Majesty and this flourishing and beautiful nation. We extend our heartfelt thanks to our eminent speaker, Mr. Sriniketh Kantadai, for all his words of motivation. Thank you, sir. Our deepest sense of appreciation and gratitude to Dr. Shivakumar Manikam, Chairman Board of Directors, Indian Schools in the Sultanate of Oman, and other members of the board and honorary directors in the Board of Directors, Indian Schools in Oman. Our sincere appreciation to the officials from the MOE, officials from CBSE, and officials of the Embassy of India, Sultanate of Oman. Thank you, sirs and ma'ams, for your relentless support and guidance throughout the course of the event. Our sincere thanks to Mr. Alkesh Joshi, Honorary President, Indian School Al-Wadi Al-Kabir Management Committee, and other members of the committee for their overwhelming encouragement at all times. I also wish to take this opportunity to express our heartfelt appreciation to our beloved principal, Mr. D.N. Rao.
Our sincere gratitude to principals of all participating schools, vice principals, assistant vice principals, coordinators, supervisors, and the entire teaching community of all the participating schools for their support, guidance, and active involvement. We are indeed thankful to our platinum sponsor, StudyCo, gold sponsors, Jain Group of Institutions, Grey Matters Academics, Vellore Institute of Technology, Sri Ramchandra Institute of Higher Education. Bronze sponsors, Middle East College Oman, Thakur Institute of Engineering and Technology, Dallas Baptist University, and MIT World Peace University, Pune. Our digital marketing partner, Spectrum, and our media partner, The Arabian Stories, for their support in making this mega event a tangible reality.
I wish to thank each and every student and parent for their invaluable presence in making this global career fair Avenue 2021 a grand event. An event of this kind requires the coordination of a dedicated team. My earnest and heartfelt thank you to my ISWK team behind the scene, working tirelessly and making Avenue 2021 a global event. Last but not the least, I thank Almighty God for making this session a great success. Thank you all. See you tomorrow for the next sessions. Take care and good night.